Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to this 2025 overview. So, I promised you that there would be new types of content. I promised you that there would be lots of different things to replace the weeklies. Obviously, the weeklies have gone into a membership, but I'm here to talk to you today about 2025 because it's going to be a pretty monumental year, and I really want to help you guys get set up right for it. So, stick around, get a brew if you haven't got one already, and let's stay tuned while we get into it. All right. So, the 2025 overview. 2025 is set to be a massive year, right? In and actually for so many different reasons. In terms of its numerology, it's a numerology universal year 9. That in itself does mean that there are some pretty big things that are happening. Now, this is going to be an incredible year of change. I absolutely believe that. There are going to be big dynamic shifts. And I think for many of us, it really is going to reignite your passions, and it's totally going to change the course of your life. And I don't say that lightly. If you've been with me long enough, you know I don't really make those big sort of grand sweeping statements. I tend to err sort of more on the side of conservatism, even if I'm a even if I'm a little bit louder and a little bit more gregarious than most. I like to keep it light-hearted and fun, but I also like to give you the tea, honey. Okay, so you know how I get on. All right. Now, in a lot of ways, we are being upgraded. We're being refined, we're being renewed, but with the making comes the breaking, right? As you know by now, I blend all of the spiritual sciences, astrology, tarot, numerology, energy work. That is like that little quartet there. That is my bag, right? That's what I do. Those are the ones that I like to pull together. And I think the reason that I love them so much is that they all give us a different slice of the pie, right? And so because I believe that each one of those spiritual sciences give us a different piece of the puzzle, it gives me, I don't want to say I'm too conceited here, but it does give me a unique perspective. So in terms of the numerology, 9 is a completion year, right? This is a year where there's going to be a lot of dynamic change, but there are a few things that we need to consider, right? And that is not only is this the year that we complete and wrap up old stories, yes, and that obviously in and of itself does create a lot of change and dynamic shifts, but it also means that many things from our past will need to come to a close in order for us to move forward. So 2025 can be an incredible year for anyone that really wants change, anyone that wants new energy, wants a fresh perspective. You're getting it anyway, so why not get on board and really ride the wave of change that is coming? I think next year is going to be an upgrade for humanity in a lot of ways, in our thinking, in our feelings, especially for those that are truly empathic. Like nowadays, everyone and their second dog is an empath. That's not how it works, and it's really not the case. I think there's a lot of HSPs that think they're empaths but are not actually empaths. Um, and the reason for that is just because you can feel that somebody's not being honest with you does not make you an empath. Seeing somebody else hurt, defiled, mistreated, etc., even on just a film or a TV show. Like I've had so many friends, families, even partners be like, Raf, it's not real, it's just a show. If I can see another human hurt, I feel that. Right. And that is the true meaning of being an empath. So if you can see lots of things taking place in the world and not really be emotionally moved by it, you're not an empath, right? Bottom line. But that's for another video. All right. I will say as well, I think this year that many of us who are spiritually inclined are going to be vindicated for our weirdness. You're welcome. All right, so that being said, 2025, certainly in the start of the year, we're talking about retrograde city, right? We start the year with Mars in a retrograde. This is a big deal, right? Because it started that retrograde in December of 2024, and it's not going to go direct until the 26th of February, right? As if that wasn't enough, it's not going to leave Cancer until April the 19th. That is a massive amount of time in a single sign for Mars, and it's also Mars's sign of fall, right? So this is where Mars really does struggle in Cancer. It's the sign of the entire zodiac where Mars is kind of, it's not at its worst, it's just not able to function how it truly wants to, right? Think Cancer is about the home and the hearth, about love and warmth and feeding people and connecting and being with your family. Whereas Mars, the soldier, the warrior, the strategist, the surgeon, the scalpel, the scissors, the laser, is, forward momentum and all of the rest of it. Out of all of the planets, Mars most dislikes going retrograde. So for it to be in the sign of its fall, we are all going to feel this in a massive, massive way, right? So once it leaves Cancer, it still then has to track over the degrees of Leo that it went retrograde in, which is like 6 degrees of Leo. That's not going to happen until early May. So this Mars retrograde is a very important deal, right? There's a few reasons for this. So on top of that, check out what happens with Mercury, right? So Mercury on April the 7th is going to go retrograde. Now, while we're still in the Mars hangover, right? At this point, Mars is going to be direct for sure, but it's still not leaving Cancer just yet, right? It will be retrograde. Mercury will go retrograde at 9 degrees, and then it's going to reverse back into Pisces. This is important, and I urge you to pay attention to this because Mercury is the messenger god, right? Or the herald of the gods, as I like to call him. He announces things, and he's announcing that these degrees of Aries and Pisces, up to and including 9/10 degrees, you're going to see why in just a moment, are coming, like literally being, he's highlighting this. This is things that we're going to be talking about. Pay attention to what's on everybody's lips. Pay attention to what's happening on the news at this time, because that's going to give you the heads up as to what's going on, right? Pay attention to this. It's what we're communicating about. It's what we're talking about. He will retrograde in Leo come August from 15 degrees of Leo right back to 4 degrees of Leo, right? Which is where Mars began its retrograde in December of 2024 at 6 degrees of Leo, right? And came back into Cancer. Hold that thought. There's a reason for this. There's a method to my madness. I know sometimes it's like when you're working with me, it's a bit like this because you're like, oh, he's talking about this and then he goes over here. And I promise that's not just like my ADHD or Aquarian tendency. There's a method to my madness always, I promise, right? So hold that thought. Venus then will go retrograde on the 3rd of March, give or take a day wherever you are in the world, and she will begin her retrograde at the 10th degree of Aries, right? So Mercury goes retrograde at 9 degrees of Aries. Venus goes retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries, a single degree later than Mercury's, and it will come all the way back to 24 degrees of Pisces. Now, Mercury will return, I think it's back to I think it's like the same degree. Don't hold me to that, but we will definitely have a look. Now, that's significant, right? And I'll talk about why in just a moment, but Venus again passes the beginning point of Aries and back into the sign of, into the final degrees of Pisces, which is her sign of exaltation. She doesn't complete this retrograde until the 13th of April, which means between Mars, Venus and Mercury going retrograde, we will basically have literally, I worked it out, it's like a 7-day period where we will have breathing space from retrogrades, right? Or retrogradia, as I like to call it, or retrograde city. Then she will track forward, right? Mercury won't re-enter Aries until and crossing that boundary until the 16th of April. Now, pay attention to this because it's going to be a really significant moment, right? On the 31st of March, Neptune is going to enter Aries at 0 degrees, right? Mercury has already passed that. He's given us a heads up, that first retrograde of the year to say, right, well, it's not the first actually. Mars will be the first because it happens to cross the barrier of the year. Venus actually goes retrograde first and then Mercury follows, right? But they're very close together. Venus will do this as well. This is a huge moment. We haven't seen Neptune in Aries in any of our lifetimes, and we won't see it in Aries again once the transit is done, unless you upgrade you upload your consciousness onto a computer, or maybe some of the youth or body or health enhancing technologies and stuff come out under some of the transits that are going to unfold over the next few years. Now, um, I urge you to pay attention to how you feel, how you think, and how you view yourself at this moment in time. A lot may be revealed to you, and you may feel the Pisces area of your chart take a breath like it's just broken the surface of the water. Like, when you're swimming underwater, and then when you break the surface, you're like, right? It's that fire, that big gasp. Wherever Pisces is in your chart, you're going to get that moment where you can kind of go, ah, okay. Now, on that same day, the 31st of March, Mercury re-enters Aries and will conjoin Neptune. On the 1st of May, Venus enters Aries again. Pay attention. And she will immediately conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And then finally, on the 25th or the 26th of May, again, depending on where you are in the world, Saturn will then come straight into the 0 degree of Aries and it will conjunct Neptune. Though at this point, Neptune's going to be about 1 degree of Aries, right? They don't actually fully conjunct, I think, until 2026. So, what does all of this mean? Aries is the sign of the self, right? Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the sign of the self. It represents the head. It's the leader of the zodiac in many ways, the sign of the newborn, the cardinal fire sign of spring, new life bursting forward, new and fresh everything. And the 0 degree of Aries represents the birth point of the zodiac. The inner planets, Mercury and Venus, have cleaned and cleared and organized this area of the chart in preparation for the birth. The midwife, Venus, and her assistant, Mercury, have made all of the preparations that we need. Now, Mars, ruler of Aries, the host of all of this, has been in Cancer, but he was at 0 degrees of Leo. Check this out, right? What that means is Mars has passed through a trine to this degree on the 6th of January, right? Sending his energies as father, king, power player. Mars then retrograde is like an inward turning of our energies to discover new strength, to overcome challenges with inner courage, right? Mars in Leo, inner courage. Passing that 0 degrees of Leo means it will be in a direct trine to the 0 point of Aries, right? The sign that it rules. Then enters Cancer's later degrees, where it comes, and that's also trining the energy of Pisces, where Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and Saturn are all going to follow that pattern, right? So Mars is going to return right the way back to 17 degrees of Cancer, earlier than any other planet will retrograde that crosses the barrier between a fire and a water sign. That's significant because it means Mars comes right back to a point where it can effectively play an emotional support, a defense of the family, the birth point, or the place. And Cancer is the 4th house in the chart, right? Because if we start from Aries, Aries being the 1st house, Cancer being the 4th house. Now, in the Thema Mundi, which is known as the world chart or the birth of the world chart, it's known as the gate of birth and life, and it's actually situated in the space of house 1, interestingly enough. Mars was there, standing sentinel, right? Crying tears of joy and love, knowing that he was unable to use his force, but merely had to submit his will to the will of nature. Meanwhile, all of this happens in Aries, Mars's sign this year. Now, this is a contraction, right? Now, when I say this as well, think about this. Mars going through the sign of Cancer. Mars is action, energy, passion, excitation. It's the scalpel. It's the surgery that takes place to cut away the corruption and the toxicity, right? It's gone through those early degrees, 6 degrees of Leo, back to the 0 point, clearing all of the stuff and the debris with it, right the way back through Cancer, right? So it's going to trine the 0 degrees and the early degrees of Aries. That's what it does as it moves through Leo. As it crosses, it trines Pisces later degrees because it comes all the way back from 29 of Cancer right back to 17. So this crossing of this 0 point of Aries and the later degrees of Pisces that these planets are all going to do is a pretty interesting moment, right? So this is a contraction and a bleeding of the point of birth of the zodiac, if you like. And we, my dear Radiant family, are all onlookers to the rebirth of humanity, where compassion, where love, where humanity and humility will once more be the thing that we value. Personally, I can't wait for that to happen. Birth is a contraction, right? For a child and for a mother. It's a difficult, painful, messy, ugly sometimes process, but the beauty is in the afterwards. 2025 is a rebirth. It's going to be painful. It's going to press us. It's going to squeeze us in ways that feel unnatural, and yet it will absolutely be the best thing for all of us as a collective. Aries is the sign of the self, yes, right? And in our chart, it represents what we are here to pioneer, what we're here to do on our own and in our own unique way. It represents what we believe, what we feel like we should fight for, what we might even be willing to die for, right? So where is Aries in your chart? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what house is this falling in for you? Where do you feel like this is, this is big stuff that's going to be happening? And truth be told, Pisces and Aries are getting a big shake up, as well as Leo and Cancer in your chart, right? There's going to be a lot of other dynamic shifts that happen this year as well. So speaking of change and speaking of something new, if you are ready to effectively close down this year, as in 2024, and head into the new one, I have something that I've never done before. This is a work with me one-to-one program. It's going to be a 3-month sprint, right? Or as I'm calling it, as you probably heard on the Hunger Games, the quarter quell, right? So you're going to be able to work with me one-on-one. We're going to build you a plan. We're going to build you a strategy. You will also have access to me throughout the week to work on your specific goals, where you'll be able to voice note me. Let's say something comes up. A lot of you have always asked me, like, do you do emergency readings? And I don't. A lot of you say, like, oh, I wish I could just have you on speed dial and ask you questions as things come up. Well, what you will have access to me on is my WhatsApp number. So you will be able to ask me a question Monday through Friday about any of the things that we are working on together to get you to. And you will be able to voice note me. Trust me, I'll send you many voice notes and probably a few memes as well. And as if that wasn't enough, you'll have a monthly check-in with me as well, so that we can keep you on your grind, right? I'm going to be in your corner, backing you 100%. I will effectively become a new member of your family. You will effectively become a member of mine, and we are going to get you to the end of this year. We start in October. We're going to go through November. We're going to go right through to the end of the year so that you can start 2025 ready to get into it. And then if at that point you decide you want to continue on, I will absolutely be there every single step of the way. There's a link for this in the description box below. If you are ready to work with me one-on-one, right? This is why I say we're going to build you a strategy. On top of that, you get a further longer call, which is going to be like 2 hours, plus your monthly check-ins, plus me on speed dial / voice notes and all of that good stuff. And there's more as well. I'm not even really have got time to talk about here. So the returning of care and compassion as Jupiter enters Cancer, the sign of his exaltation on the 10th of June, right? So all the stuff that we've talked about is not just it. Now, add to this on the 10th of June, take a minute, catch your breath. Just know that we are nowhere near done, right? June 10th sees us witnessing a once in 12-year transit where Jupiter is going to come into the sign of its exaltation in the sign of Cancer. That's where Mars was, right? Yes, exactly. Mars has been performing a surgery of sorts, right? Cutting away and clearing the corruption, the toxicity, the unclean, anything that just wasn't really meant to be there. In that space, he's made it red, he's made it angry. Jupiter, the planet of blessings, abundance, growth, and also the planet of healing and protection, brings his soothing waters from the ocean. Jupiter rules the oceans, that expansion, that expanse of water to cleanse away the hurt and heal the area. And because Jupiter also represents cohesion, it's going to show us how to integrate the lessons of what's taken place into our lives, right? Mars did what was needed to be done, the dutiful soldier that he is. Excuse me. He did the hard work so that Jupiter could come in and do the great work. Mars came in to do the hard work. Jupiter comes in so he can do the great work, right? Now we gain in this place. Now we see the rewards. Now we see growth because the area is clean. You can't plant seeds in dirty soil or trashy soil or waterlogged soil and expect them to grow. Fresh skin, new cells begin to form in this space in our charts. And in this sign where Jupiter can function so well, we see growth, we see the birth of ideas, we see opportunities come to life, and we see the results of all the hard, painful inner work that we've done at this point. Now, we see compassion start to return. We see love flourish. We see women, children, childbirth, babies gain much needed protection. Jupiter represents protection. Cancer is the sign of women, children, childbirth, feeding, right? Food, all of those things. Watch out for this on the wider world stage. Pay attention to the men who lift women and the sacred feminine up without losing their own divine masculine. That's going to be a really big telltale point. Pay attention to this. This is a very important moment, especially because of what's come before, right? New future developments in healthcare for women and children. The birth process might come to light now. Mothers' rights may be protected. A woman leader will very likely come to power underneath this transit. It's an auspicious time for us all, right? Where does Cancer fall in your chart? Because that's where the growth will be happening. As if that wasn't enough, Uranus then on the 7th of July to the 8th of November is going to enter the sign of Gemini. I'm calling this one Humanity Rebooted, right? Last but by no means least, because this is huge. Uranus will enter Gemini. It's been in Taurus now for about 6.5 years, give or take. The planet of change, technology, revolution, rebellion, energy, electricity, right, comes into the sign of information, communication, data, motor skills, curiosity, all of those things that Gemini rules, this and that, sorting between that and this, right, choosing between this and that. Many technological marvels are likely to be introduced under this transit. Now, remember, we're just getting a taster of this one, which I'm going to remind you of in a moment. Upgrades in tech, communications, AI, data collection, media outlets, news, television, along with the very first moments of telepowers in humans, right? When this transit begins, I want you to take a moment under this transit and I want you to just see how your senses and your nervous system change and process information, right? What is really important to remember here now, out of all of this, right? Aside from all of the stuff that I just talked about with Uranus in Gemini, what's really important to remember is that apart from Jupiter, all of the big boy planets, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, will all come back out of their respective temporary homes and back into the sign that they start the year in, right? So Uranus will come back into Taurus and it will sit there. Saturn will come back into Pisces and it will sit there. Neptune will come back into Pisces and it will sit there. And they will wait there. They will camp out until 2026, right? And coming back into Pisces, that area has been cleared and it's been highlighted. So we just get a taste of what's happening with those big planets, those big outer shifts that are taking place. They're initiating something at those 0 degrees, right, of Aries, right? Something new is coming in for sure. These shifts don't really take, as in sort of take root or spread roots until 2026. which, interestingly enough, is going to be a universal year one. So this is one for change, absolutely, but it's one for preparation, truly. This isn't the big explosion that many people think it's going to be where, where there's still work to be done here, right? There are things to be rewritten, ideas to be birthed, and there are also many old stories that now need to be concluded and will be. It's a universal year nine for all of us, which means many conclusions, culminations, considerations around history, around the stories that have been told. Only you will know what those are in your life. But it's a very, very exciting time, right? Now, if you feel like you want to get ahead of this and you want to work with me in doing the prep in the proverbial kitchen of your life, I'm taking 10 amazing people with me on this journey, all kinds of incredible support, exciting viewpoints to get ready for the year ahead, right? The sign up link is in the link the sign up link for that is in the description, and it will be my honor to serve you, right? Now, let me know in the comments if you're enjoying this new content, right? If just this is just the first one of many to come, so stay tuned. If you haven't signed up to be a Reydiant rider, the link to join memberships is also in the description as well. I want to say thank you so much for spending time with me. Go out there and be who you're destined to be. All right, big love. Take care, and I'll see you soon.